Hey, welcome to World Code Updates. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. Tonight the world holds its breath as a dangerous standoff unfolds in the South China Sea. U.S. and Chinese warships face off, headlines blare, collision course in disputed waters. The stakes are high, two nuclear-armed superpowers, one flashpoint and the risk of miscalculation rising by the hour. This isn't just a regional dispute, it's a direct challenge to the global order, with consequences for international security and trade. Picture an American aircraft carrier slicing through contested waters, fighter jets ready as a fleet of Chinese warships closes in, broadcasting warnings. China claims these waters as its own, calling them the indisputable domain of the People's Republic. The U.S. insists on freedom of navigation, determined to challenge China's sweeping claims. Each encounter grows more aggressive, the air thick with uncertainty. Will a single mistake ignite a conflict neither side truly wants? This is the culmination of years of island building, military expansion, and simmering disputes. Tonight, we take you to the heart of this crisis to understand what's happening, why it matters, and what could come next. The world is watching and waiting. The USS Nimitz, a symbol of American naval power, was conducting operations near Scarborough Shoal, waters the US calls international, but China claims as its own. As the Nimitz approached, Chinese warships intercepted, shadowing the carrier and issuing stern warnings. Chinese state media declared the US ship expelled, calling its presence a provocation. The U.S. Navy denied this, insisting the Nimitz operated safely and professionally, but acknowledged the encounter was unsafe and unprofessional on China's part. This careful language reveals the delicate balance project's strength: avoid escalation. The standoff is part of China's strategy to normalize its control over vital sea lanes, making U.S. operations riskier and more politically costly. By challenging U.S. naval assets, Beijing aims to create a new reality, one where American presence is the exception, not the rule. The USS Nimitz incident was a test. Is the U.S. willing to risk war to sail here? Each encounter is a dangerous dance of diplomacy and military posturing. China wants to push the U.S. out, one confrontation at a time. The world is left to wonder. How far will either side go? This is not an isolated event, but a calculated move in a much larger game. The stakes could not be higher. Scarborough Shoal, Panatag to the Philippines, Huangyandao to China, is more than a speck in the sea. It's a strategic prize. Just 120 nautical miles from the Philippines, it sits astride vital shipping lanes carrying trillions in global trade. Control here means power, the ability to monitor, disrupt, or dominate a critical artery of the world economy. For China, it's a key piece of its sweeping 9-line claim. A military outpost here would complete a triangle of bases, giving Beijing control over the region and threatening U.S. positions in the Pacific. The dispute is bitter. Filipino fishermen have lost access since China seized control in 2012. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled for the Philippines, declaring China's claims illegal. Beijing dismissed the ruling outright. Scarborough Shoal is now a symbol of the clash between international law and China's ambitions. For the U.S., it's a test of the rules-based order. For the Philippines, a fight for sovereignty and survival. The Nimitz's presence was a direct challenge to China's control, a reminder that the world hasn't forgotten the tribunal's decision. The shoal remains a flashpoint where law, power, and national pride collide. The world's attention is fixed on this tiny ring of reefs. China's latest moves were bold and unmistakable. Not only did warships shadow the Nimitz, but China also deployed a 300-meter floating barrier, sealing off Scarborough Shoal's lagoon. This physical blockade, enforced by Chinese vessels, shut out Filipino fishermen and sent a clear message. Chamisadi kram, Chanigriman sign. Is Cyan Gudrun Perdingson Bergrin non in control? State media broadcast images of Coast Guard patrols, reinforcing the narrative of defending sovereignty. The barrier was a calculated escalation, ownership made visible and absolute. Ironically, China's aggressive tactics led to chaos. Two Chinese ships collided during the operation, highlighting the risks of crowded, tense waters. These actions are part of China's gray zone strategy: coercive, aggressive, but just short of war. By using Coast Guard and militia vessels, China intimidates rivals without triggering a direct military response. It's a slow, relentless campaign to change the facts on the water. The U.S. responded swiftly, condemning China's actions and reaffirming its commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Pentagon officials called China's moves reckless, warning of catastrophic miscalculation. Washington must show resolve to allies like the Philippines, but avoid being drawn into war over reefs and rocks. The Philippines reacted with outrage, filing diplomatic protests and vowing not to yield an inch of territory. The Philippine Coast Guard, emboldened by U.S. support, publicized China's aggression to rally international backing. Australia and Japan voiced serious concern, urging respect for international law and the 2016 tribunal ruling. For regional powers, China's behavior sets a dangerous precedent. If it can bully neighbors here, where does it stop? Analysts warn that Beijing's strategy is creating a tinderbox. Every close pass, every warning shot, raises the risk of an uncontrollable crisis. Many believe China is testing the limits of the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty. How far can Beijing push before the U.S. is forced to respond militarily? It's a question no one wants answered. The world is watching, hoping diplomacy prevails. The stakes are global. This is no isolated incident. It's part of a clear pattern of Chinese escalation. For years, China has built artificial islands, installing runways, missiles and radar to militarize the South China Sea. Hundreds of Chinese vessels, including Navy, Coast Guard, and maritime militia, now swarm disputed waters. These fishing boats are state-backed, used to harass rivals and assert sovereignty with plausible deniability. Tactics have grown more aggressive. Water cannons, lasers, and dangerous maneuvers are now routine. The floating barrier at Scarborough Shoal marks a new level, physically blocking territory, not just harassing. Each step tests the resolve of the U.S. and its allies, pushing the boundaries of what's tolerated. Diplomacy has stalled. China doubles down, convinced might makes right. The region edges closer to a tipping point, where one misstep could spark disaster. Beyond the headlines, the human cost is real and immediate. Filipino fishermen, who've relied on Scarborough Shoal for generations, are now driven away by Chinese patrols and barriers. Chased by Coast Guard ships, blasted by water cannons, their livelihoods are vanishing. Forced to fish in poorer waters, many face mounting debt and uncertainty. The Philippine government tries to help, but its Coast Guard is outnumbered and outgunned. Escort missions are tense, often leading to standoffs with Chinese vessels. For these fishermen, it's a David and Goliath struggle, small boats against a modern navy. Their courage is remarkable, but their future is at risk. The crisis ripples across the region. Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei face similar harassment. The plight of Filipino fishermen is a warning to all smaller nations. China's peaceful rise is contradicted by its actions at sea. The struggle for Scarborough Shoal is about survival, dignity, and the right to fish in ancestral waters. At its core, this is a clash of worldviews. China claims indisputable sovereignty based on historical maps, drawing its sweeping 9-dash line across the sea. Beijing sees its actions as defending territory. The U.S. sees them as aggression. Modern international law, especially UNCLOS, rejects China's claims. Territorial waters are based on land features, not history. The 2016 Hague Tribunal found no legal basis for China's 9-dash line. China's stance puts it at odds with the global legal order. The U.S. champions freedom of navigation, insisting the seas are a global commons open to all. American operations challenge excessive claims, defending the rules that underpin global trade and security. For China, backing down would be a blow to national pride. For the U.S., conceding would undermine the rules-based order. There's little room for compromise. Each side sees the stakes as existential. The standoff at Scarborough Shoal is the physical manifestation of this ideological conflict. The world watches as two visions for the future collide. The world waits to see what happens next. Will the U.S. escalate with another freedom of navigation operation, risking direct confrontation, or will it rely on diplomacy and sanctions, risking the perception of weakness? With so many ships in close quarters, the risk of accident or miscalculation is dangerously high. Communication channels meant to prevent conflict have broken down, making the situation even more perilous. Experts see few good outcomes: a tense status quo, slow-burning escalation, or, worst of all, open conflict. A U.S.-China war would be catastrophic for the world economy and human lives. The standoff in the South China Sea is a test of the global order. Will law or force decide the future? The answer may be determined in these contested waters. The fate of peace and security hangs in the balance. The world is watching.